Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Soya and Baila's World tonight. It is the 27th day of February. It is also, incidentally, for all of our Jewish listeners, it is the first day of Rosh Chodesh, which is the top of the month, the first day of the month, which begins the joyous month of Adar, which is the month that the Purim miracle happened. Misha Nichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. Also, there's a lot to talk about, much going on. We had four more hostage bodies released. Again, these are deceased hostages, something which I have issues with, but we're going to get to that in a moment. I'd first like to take a moment to introduce our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is Mark Appel. He is the founder and the head of the Bridge National Organization. The Bridge is a multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multireligious organization, which, as its name obviously implies, clearly bridges the gaps between the various cultures, various ethnicities, various religions, colors, races, etc., to improve relations between all and make life and the quality of life safer and better for all good people, regardless of their backgrounds or affiliations. Welcome, the Honorable Mark Appel. It's an honor to have you here tonight. Mark, there's a lot going on. I'm going to pass the baton to Baila to begin with the news and to begin the questions. I know you have certain subjects you'd like to touch on. I have some issues, and Soya doesn't, so does Baila. So let's get the show on the road. Baila, please.
Thank you. Who did not shed a tear yesterday as Shiri Bibas and her two children, Ariel and Kafir, were laid to rest in the same coffin? In our last episode a week ago, Shiri's body had not yet been returned, and in its place was an unidentified Gazan woman, and we spent much time talking about that. Hamas eventually released Shiri's body since then. Our hearts go out to Yardain, the husband of Shiri, and father to Ariel and Kafir. And today, 4 other precious souls have been returned in coffins. Israel received the bodies of Tzachi Idan, Itzik Elgartamim, Shlomo Mansour, and Ohad Yahalomi. In return for the bodies, Israel is releasing live terrorists who are in prison for murder. What other country in the world does that? Let's first start talking about that.
I think I'm going to start, and I want Mark to give his opinion, but I have a substantial issue with that. I understand the feelings of the families and those close, and of course, of the faith of our religion, that the bodies themselves are holy and precious and have to have a proper burial. And for there to have actual closure, it really makes it easier when there isn't a proper and appropriate burial. But in the first Holocaust that happened, unfortunately, that did not happen with many, many, many millions of people who did not have a proper burial, who were burnt alive, whatever. Okay, I'm not comparing the same circumstances. It's a different set of circumstances, Baila. I see you're getting ready to jump in. But I do want, Baila, what I wanted to say.
He's afraid.
I'm afraid, Baila, I'm afraid, yes. But what I do want to say is that I have a substantial issue with the idea of exchanging live savages and monsters for dead hostages, for hostages that are already deceased.
I don't get this. What other country in the world? What other country would it be expected of them to give back terrorists, prisoners who were terrorists, for dead bodies?
Mark.
You know what really peeved me off? First of all, saying the prisoner exchange, and I want to say it's not a prisoner exchange. I'll tell you what: give back all the people from the jail, lop off their heads, lop off their arms, and deliver it back to them, and tell them we're giving you a fruit. We're giving you a fruit basket.
That's right.
Welcome fruit basket. I mean, literally, it's the insanity of the torture. It just doesn't end. And at some point, you got to say, carpet bomb him.
Okay.
Carpet bomb him more.
Ladies, stop. Now I want to bring in Mark. Mark, as you know, you deal on so many levels, national, international, with so many major officials. You've been across the board on all of this. Mark, what do you think of this? How do you view this? Is it right? Is it wrong? Yeah, please.
First of all, congratulations. I have two of my great women that I respect the most in the world. And both of you, Baila, and you, of course,
Soaya
and Bumi, and all of you. It's a great show, and I think it's very informational, very important to have an open discussion. You have to understand that we Jewish people are very, very different from other nations of the world. You can't compare potatoes and tomatoes. You can't compare it. What we do to save a Jew is incredible.
Right, for one life, yeah.
Above. It's very. I was always criticizing American leaders that stand and protest in Central Park or in Borough Park or wherever they protest and dictate policy to the Israeli government. You know, we can't do that. We can't do that. The fact of the matter is that what happened this week is beyond barbaric. It's one of the most vicious things. There wasn't a dry eye in the Jewish community.
That's right.
Whether it's in the liberal community, whether it's in the right-wing community or the progressive community. Everybody just seeing the Bibas family, the entire family, wiped out and escorted by with a parade.
Oh my God, that's just that's just beyond. That's just beyond.
So we can't really jump to the conclusion that Israel did the wrong thing. You know, I'm
not saying they did. No. I never said that they did the wrong. I'm not criticizing Israel. God forbid. It's just that it's just so difficult to accept that we're giving back. And I'm saying Israel, we're Jews. We're giving back live murderers for dead bodies.
This is not the first time.
And I understand the importance. Of course, they're being brought to Kever Yisrael. I totally get it. It's just very painful to fathom. Seriously,
Mark, I have an issue coming. Where do we draw a line, Mark? Mark, where does the Israeli government draw the line? If they had said right from the onset, whatever exchanges are being made first and foremost for live hostages. No, a few live ones and a few dead ones. Would that have been so wrong and so impossible? Would that have blown the deal apart? Mark, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but
I'm not in the government.
Right.
This is not the first time that an exchange like this happened. It started with Shalit. You remember Shalit?
Yes. Oh, sure.
But he was alive. Gilad Shalit was alive at the time that he was exchanged. These are dead Jewish Israeli hostages that are coming back in body bags. We're giving them live ones for dead ones.
I usually don't refer to rabbinical authorities. You know, ever since my days fighting for the Child Victims Act, I don't disrespect them, but I just ignore their. But in this case, case of exchanging bodies, I think rabbinic intervention is necessary. I think rabbinic intervention is necessary. You know, I'm reading the books. I'm a longtime Zionist that believe the American Jews did everything to help get the Jews out of Nazi Germany. I disagree with every single book written, from Perfidy to all the Narishkeit that was written. The Jews in America, New Jersey, New York, hundreds of thousands of people were protesting against FDR. It wasn't only the Frum community.
Yes.
The whole community.
Yes.
It was Rabbi Stephen Weiss, who everybody criticizes, also made massive demonstrations and went to Rav Aaron Kotler to try to get them to protest. So this is a decision that has to have some rabbinical intervention. Not 100% intervention, but they should have some input into it. I know Baila, when she does her events or single events, I know she has guidance from a rabbi in the neighborhood. Make sure that she doesn't cross the lines and become some kind of Epstein saga.
Oh my God.
Somebody texted me this afternoon. He said he saw my name in that book.
Now that you mentioned that, Mark, I had, when they talked about Baila and Soaya, please listen to me. for a minute. When the entire hostage deal or deals were being made, okay, I had an issue, frankly. Look, I understand the feelings of the families, and I know, and I don't envy Bibi Netanyahu at all, because he is caught between a rock and a hard place. He's got half of Israel screaming, "We got to bring the hostages home." He's got the other half of Israel saying, "Hey, we should just level all of Gaza and destroy it." Like that's it's two sides, and he's stuck. He's got to do a juggle between that, figure it out. I, though, said at that point in time, Mark, I said, you know something? As far as how many hostages do we have to trade? How many do we get out in exchange for how many of those prisoners, those butchers, those monsters that are sitting in Israeli prisons? We should look to halacha, because there is a certain a formulation, a calculation made in the Talmud that says a life for a life. How many lives? How many lives? We have there is a great mitzvah, as we call it, of pidyon shvuyim, which means to rescue or redeem captives that are being held.
Yes.
But at the same time, there is a limit. You have to put a value on how much you're willing to expend in order to redeem how many captives. I think that, like you just said now, is something should have been done with rabbinical intervention. That's the way it should have followed, because then we would have known what the proper formula is. I believe that.
There's one more addition to this equation.
Please.
America has a lot of input into whether.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Donald Trump is a good friend of Israel, very good friend of Israel.
Yes.
But I'm sure he's dictating policy that Israel has to, Israel's existence today because of America's support. Even Joe Biden sent a lot of weapons to Israel. We can't deny that, whether we like him or not. He did send a lot of weapons to Israel.
Until towards the end, when he slowed down the release of the hard weaponry that would have been necessary to obliterate.
Never know what really happened over there, I wasn't concerned so much about Joe Biden. He's been an old friend of Israel. I was concerned about a lot of his staffers,
Right.
Really
those around him.
But this was a terrible week. I mean, you can see people in the street in Borough Park literally in tears.
Yeah, people can't function.
Two little kids, two little beautiful kids.
How can anybody? I mean, these. What happened on October 7th? People were stolen from their beds. People who went to festivals were slaughtered because they were at a festival enjoying themselves.
Because they were Jews, Baila. You were about to say it. Baila, you said because they were Jews.
Because they were Jewish. All because they were Jewish. Because they were Jewish.
It's not a battle
what they did. What did little Ariel and Kafir do? What they had to pay the price because for what? For what? Who did they bother?
I don't know if any of you, Baila or Bumi, have you been to killing fields in Israel? Have you been to Israel to visit the killing
fields?
I've
been many times. I actually lived there for 3 years, and I'm a licensed attorney in Israel as well.
But have you visited after the?
No, I have not.
Well, I did. I didn't watch.
You were there.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Oh, it's crazy. I was there with. I took a bunch of friends of mine that moved to Israel with me. I took cousin A.B. Kiss, Lenny Gutman, who lived in New York, and I took a few people down there. We had a little kumsitz over there. But to see it in person and to feel it, and I've seen the people that live there. I went to the kibbutz over there. The people that lived there, they were not right-wing people. They were very progressive people, and they opened their house to the Palestinians, and then they just double-crossed them, and nobody will ever understand. We will never understand in our lifetime what happened, what went wrong at October 7th. There's no question. And I say that to all the Bibis, all the lovers of Bibi, they love him. I can say that. There was something very seriously wrong on that day of October 7th. Very seriously wrong.
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
For them to build 300 miles of tunnels and we don't know about it or we didn't do anything about it.
Nobody heard. I mean, there were reports.
There were reports
people were hearing at night building.
Yeah, but nobody responded to those reports. And you know, as Teddy wrote, as not what do you call it? As Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. The buck stops with Bibi at the bottom line, because he is the prime minister. He's the leader of Israel. So you know, they're pointing their finger. Everybody will point their finger and say, "Hey, you were responsible at the time. Why didn't something? Why wasn't this watched? Why wasn't somebody? Why didn't they wake up when the alerts were given? What's going on over here? What had happened over here? It's a catastrophe. There's no question about it." Mark, I wanted to ask you about something else. Let me step aside to shift over just a little bit now. We are, and we have since October 7th, this across Europe and across America, we've been bombarded with a wave of anti-Semitism, a terrifying wave of anti-Semitism. And obviously there is no logic to it. It just is there, and it's being done. Primarily, it is the Muslims, the extreme left, the radical Muslims, Islam, which have taken over Europe, and they're in the process of taking over the United States unless Donald Trump stops them. And they actually came right into my neck of the woods, right here, my neighborhood this past week, right here in Borough Park. I don't know. I was not present. I was not there. I saw in the news reports about 100 of them, 150 of them, and there were equal or maybe more number of Jewish people came to counter this demonstration. But they're going right into the thick of everything. Mark, I understand that you were there. Could you tell us what was going on there? What was? How do we deal with something like this, Mark?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. That was it Wednesday or Thursday night? Was it Wednesday night or Thursday night?
I think it was Thursday night, but I don't recall. I can't say for sure.
Coming back, I completely forgot about the demonstration. I wasn't going to go. But I was at a meeting. There was a very top-level meeting with all the community leaders at Maimonides Hospital. Right. I left the hospital about 7 o'clock, and I'm driving down 14th Avenue, okay? I have a video. I'm trying to get to see if I can show the video.
It would be nice if you could actually put it up in front of your screen.
I'll try to catch it up. Try to put it up. Anyways, listen. I'm driving down 14th Avenue.
Right.
The demonstration was on 36th Street and 14th Avenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's what I'm told. Yeah.
Now, in our lifetime, we've seen a lot of demonstrations, right?
Yeah, of
right.
course.
We have seen demonstrations against non-union people demonstrating against the store, demonstrations against people that don't want to give their wives a get. Did you ever see in your lifetime, Baila, did you ever see in your lifetime, Soaya, Bumi, did you ever see in your lifetime a police department allowing the demonstrators right in front of the door of where the venue was being held?
It should not have been. I don't remember that.
And the machas from Borough Park are silent in defending the police department. I spoke to senior members of the police department in the police commissioner's office. And I spoke to Shomron, Shmira, which stayed away smartly. They stayed a few blocks away. I was almost killed.
Well, what did you do? You wanted to fight with them?
Why would they let protesters right in front of the door of a Jewish venue? Why didn't you invite them in?
They were standing literally less than a few feet away, literally right in front of where the door was. Now, an event was happening over there. I don't think they had a permit. I don't know if they had a permit or not.
Well, then they could have been arrested.
Who gave him the permit?
I don't know. It would have been.
Let me finish what happened to me.
Okay.
The demonstration was on 36th Street. The Jews were on one side and the Palestinians were on the other side, okay? There was some outside provocatives, I don't want to mention the name, that came in to for 2 minutes to try to make a video of the whole thing. Anyway, I'm parked a block away on 36th Street. And I walked across the street to the Jewish side. The children, these are innocent kids that really felt the pain. They started running. Why are you running? Because the Palestinians started running towards Church Avenue, okay? Here I am, I'm running, and my car is surrounded by 200 Palestinians.
How did you get stuck in the center of them like that?
Here's the video. See the gray car? That's my car, the gray car.
Yeah, I see at the top of it.
Look what's going on there.
My God. Mark, how did you find this?
Thanks to Richie Taylor that was standing there.
Stop. 1 second. Mark. How did you find yourself stuck smack in the middle of them? The car.
I parked a block away.
You were a block away. So they came at you?
Yeah. Richie Taylor was right behind me. You see him in the picture. And they took 30 cops, came around my car, escorted me out. I left. I went home back to Long Island. I'm not going to sit there and risk, But the young people there were young people being. They almost had a rampage where people squashing each other's body. There could have been a lot of casualties. So the question is, why did the police department let them give them a permit or not give them a permit to park right in front of the door? Right in front of the door.
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think they had a permit. I don't think they had a permit.
They did have a permit.
They did have a permit?
I'm not sure, but I heard they did have.
Had they not had a permit, there should have been a mass amount of arrests. But let me ask you something, Mark. Did they get violent at that thing? Did they actually attack anybody? Was there any resistance? Was there any actual fight?
The only fight was with Heshe Tischler.
He forget about him. He's not relevant. That's any normal human beings that had any conflicts.
No, but there was some punching. I saw some punching. I saw some kids falling to the ground. Nobody got, thank God, injured seriously.
Did the police at least maintain?
It could have been a bloodshed.
Did the police at least maintain control? Did they at least maintain control?
They tried their best. But there was the proximity between the Palestinians and. I mean, I never heard of such a thing in my life. I didn't get an answer. I don't have an answer.
We really we at Soaya and Baila's World also have certain connections. We're going to also try with you, Mark, to try to get some answers if we can after this is, as soon as we get an opportunity, probably after the weekend. But anyway, Mark, when such a protest is happening in one of our communities, when these barbarians decide that they're going to come across and rally against the Jewish people for no good cause at all, obviously, because they don't even know what the hell they're rallying for, pardon me, many of them. How are we supposed to respond? What is the appropriate way to answer it? Do we just are we just total pacifists? Do we just sit back and say nothing, do nothing, don't answer? Or do we get together and make mass counteract? What do we do?
It's a very good question. The first thing, we demand the police department and our politicians out there that make sure that not only do you have police in front of the protesters, but you have it on the two sides so they can't run them. Okay? Circle them, surround them, isolate them, put barricades, put metal barricades. Yeah, they put barricades. You know where they put the barricades?
No, I wasn't there.
They put the Palestinians right in front of the building, and they put the barricades afterwards.
Wow.
The barricades behind them.
So the people,
seriously,
people that went into the building.
Who was the brainiac that came up with that idea?
I don't know.
We don't want to. We love our NYPD.
Yeah, we have generally. By the way, Mark, I want you to know generally, we have some really wonderful police officers right down on from the captain down of the 66th precinct. On the whole, they're among some of the really New York's finest around, and we support.
They were sweating that night. They were sweating.
I'm surprised.
I was in such.
There were fights.
So apparently there was the mystic. Apparently somehow it wasn't properly planned to maintain it. It wasn't planned in advance by the police department how they're going to keep them in a certain location. How they're going to. There was a gap somewhere. Am I right, Mark? It seems like planning.
I spoke to senior police department officials. I'm not a police buff. I don't relate to the police.
I think the barrier should have been wrapped around like a corridor.
Yeah.
And the police should have been at the end of the corridor. And if you had ID to go into the building, then you can go into the corridor. Absolutely. No rally, no people. The people would have had to leave. There would have been nothing to show up. All these people that showed up, if they came and like other people weren't there, they would have left. You understand? There was nothing. They were looking, they were instigating the people that came over there and saying, oh, you're stealing our land or whatever it is. You're in New York, okay? Nobody's stealing any land, okay? Nobody's stealing land over there. Nobody's stealing land over here.
The Jewish, before they started running up to Church Avenue, the Jews remained behind the barriers and behaved themselves. The young boys, mostly yeshiva boys, they behaved themselves. And maybe one outside ex-politician that came up there trying to make.
Because they're not savages or barbarians, Mark. We are trained to be human beings and to respect the rights of others.
We are different than them.
We are different than them.
Oh,
That's
look,
correct.
And just look what happened this week. We've shown the world that we're different.
Yeah.
So I think what Mark is saying now, first of all, there has to be proper communication with the authorities to ensure that proper logistics and proper planning is made when we are given notice of a rally about to happen. Mark, is the next step, is it appropriate to counter rally and to get together people on the other side appropriately?
Absolutely.
We should speak out. We should not remain silent.
Do a big counter pro. Every time they have 100 of them, I go to them. You have 1,000 people showing up supporting
on our side.
Very important political leaders here that we
have to fight back.
You have to fight back. Mark, I want to step over to something else. Baila, can I?
Yeah, go ahead, and I'll go ahead.
I'm sorry, you wanted to redirect?
No, it's okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is something I mentioned last time. Now I'm beginning to have a little bit more uncertainty. I think I may be swinging into your girl's view. There's a massive buildup, as everybody knows, in Gaza. Right there, right in the Sinai, right there along the Gaza and Egyptian side. Okay. Now, that massive buildup includes hundreds of tanks, hundreds of thousands of troops, from what I'm told. I mean, a massive invasionary size force. Now, I myself have an issue, of course, I'm sure a lot of people agree with me, that back then when the original treaty was made with Egypt, when Jimmy Carter was president, Menachem Begin, I think it was wrong because we gave up too much by giving up the entirety of Sinai, although we were pressed into it. They were hoping for peace, and they did have some degree of peace. But nevertheless, had that not happened like that with the Sinai, what would have been is that we would have had watch on the air that never would have been open to digging tunnels after Anwar Sadat had already died because he was murdered later on. And I think it was even succeeds after his successor, who I believe was Hosni Mubarak, I think after he was pushed out. So I think after both of them, that's when really the violations and the breaches on the Egyptian side began. But all of the tunnels were built from Egypt, and that's where everything started. And had that never happened back then, certainly I think that never would have built up to that point. But last week, I asked Baila and Soaya whether they think this is a prelude to an invasion or whether they think this is just waving it is just waving themselves, showing themselves and saying, hey, it's a statement being made by the Egyptians saying, don't try to push the Gazans out of Gaza into our land or any place else because we're not going to let anybody get through. From my view, as far as I saw, that was what I thought it was. Baila and Soaya both said no, they think it could be a prelude to invasion. Now when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the extent of the buildup. They certainly don't need that kind of an incredible force that's being built up over there in the Sinai along that border just to keep Palestinians, so-called Palestinians, from leaving Gaza and going into Egypt. They can do that with a lot less. Maybe the ladies are right. Are we looking at the possibility of another war with Egypt? Mark, how do you feel? What do you think?
I think they're scared because I know the President Trump is sending over those 2,000-pound bombers, right? That really to wipe out half of Iran. I think what you have to watch is Iran. That's the number one.
The head of the snake, or the head of the octopus, as Baila calls it.
All over the world. I think that's where the action. If there's going to be any action, it's going to be against Iran. I really believe. I'm not a hawk, but I believe that.
So you just see Egypt flexing its muscles.
America's going to look aside as Israel attacks Iran.
Okay, so you're saying Egypt is actually just posturing, but it's not really preparing for an invasion.
They're in a no-win situation. They can't win.
They can't beat Israel. No,
they don't want these Palestinians coming into their land. No work and
nobody wants them.
They don't want them to come in, but they don't want to fight.
They don't want trouble.
They don't want to fight.
They don't want to fight Israel either.
They don't have their economy is not at the best of shape.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're still saying the same thing that I said, as opposed to the girls' idea of the possible prelude to invasion. Well, I hope you're right and I'm right. We'll see what happens. Baila, can I pass the baton to you now? You want to? Yeah.
Please. What I wanted to talk a little bit about is now that the phase one of the hostage deal is complete, Israeli negotiators are set to travel to Egypt in the coming days to discuss a possible phase two. So, as we're speaking, 59 Israeli hostages are still held by Hamas, at least 28 of whom have been confirmed dead. There are now three possible scenarios as how to the next phase will play out. One scenario is an agreement could be reached on phase two, and this would likely see all remaining hostages, alive and dead, released. Hamas and Islamic Jihad leaders could be exiled from Gaza. Gaza would remain demilitarized. The IDF would pull out, but likely stay in a few strategic areas along the borders.
Well, they said they will not pull out of the Philadelphia corridor.
That's true. It's true. No, Hamas is unlikely to agree to giving up ruling the Strip or exiling its leadership. I mean, they've had it so good for so long. Why would they give it up? At the same time, the governing coalition in Israel would not likely survive an agreement that leaves Hamas in place.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, that's one scenario. You said there's another scenario.
Right, and there's other scenarios.
Let's hear the other scenario. Yeah, please.
Right, and the other option, too, is extend phase one of the deal. Under this scenario, there would be additional stages where hostages are freed and the ceasefire continues in exchange for very large numbers of Palestinian prisoners. In this option, the IDF would not pull out entirely, and there would not be a declaration of a complete end to the war.
In other words, this would retain the current status quo in terms of everything going on except for continued hostage exchange. And hostage exchange means live and dead, or are we talking now just live? Do they even talk about that?
It's like Israel will take what it can get. The thing is that Hamas is right now reluctant to release many more hostages. I mean, that's their bargaining chip, right? Why would they want to, why would they?
You're right.
They still want leverage, right? They release all the hostages, then they lose all leverage.
Well, right, absolutely. Once the hostages,
so in other words,
the hostages are released, Soaya.
Hold on, but that means that they're going to always want to have some sort of a hostage. How do we know they're not going to do it?
That's exactly what Baila is saying. That is their leverage. Mark, am I right? If the hostages would be released, all of them, if we finally got all the hostages out, with Trump in office, Israel would then have a carte blanche to go ahead and level what's left of Gaza and finish the job. Am I right? Does that make sense, Mark?
Yeah. The question is this: so many things happening. First of all, it looks what appears in the media that there may be a deal with Russia and Ukraine. Okay, there may be a deal. If that deal is consummated and completed, right, and the war ends over there, then the focus is going to be shifting to the Middle East. So that's what I'm watching very closely.
Yeah, I mean,
if President Trump succeeds in getting concessions from Zelensky and trying to get some concessions from Putin, then Middle East would be the next situation, which would be a big focus of the American government.
Yeah, but would he then continue and double down on his current position, or would he change his stance in any way? I like to believe that he would double down on it and say, hey, get out of Gaza, everybody out. Let's destroy what remains of Gaza and the tunnels and everything else.
Well,
and then slowly,
by the way,
worry later.
Right. If option 1 and 2 doesn't work, then option 3 would be a renewed war. Israel would likely return to high-intensity fighting inside Gaza, aiming to eradicate Hamas, and of course with potentially strong U.S. support and backing.
Well, so the question is now, what now happens? Israel, they still have the problem. The hostages are there. But I think at this point, I believe most of them are probably dead. And I think at this point, look, unfortunately, they're returning dead bodies, but
they've also returned live ones as well. And we thought, weeks ago, months ago, we thought everybody was dead, but
Ayla, at
they
what
want to keep
point?
some of that. They want to keep some of them alive because
At what
again,
point do
they
you
need
So
some
say?
leverage.
another situation. Listen, let's not kid ourselves. It would take about 15 to 20 years to rebuild Gaza. Gaza's a
Oh, for
mess.
sure.
Everybody knows
But that would be wonderful as
But
long
if-
as everybody's out. Let them take
but
15 to 20 years.
there's other areas. You have 2 million people that are displaced, and you have to put them somewhere.
Well, there's a lot of Arab
There's
land out
there's
there. A lot of Arab land.
a lot of
out
Israeli land that can be used as well.
there. Now there's very little extra Israeli land, and every place they come into Israel, they're always making problems in Israel.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Mark, that
that's
I
what they
must
know.
strongly disagree with that. They cannot be brought to other places in tiny little Israel because wherever they're put into, because it is a religious holy war for them, they will attack. They'll do intifadas, they will strike, they will wreak havoc wherever they are. They must go into other Arab lands. Today there was an attack, from what I heard.
Today, almost every day there's an
Today,
attack.
10 people were badly wounded today.
Even today, there was a ramming attack.
Where was the attack?
Stop with that. It does not stop.
That's right. It doesn't say you can't put them anyplace
their
else in
agenda.
Israel. That is their agenda. That's what they want to do. Mark, I strongly disagree with that particular sentiment.
Any what's going on in Brooklyn? Any good news?
I don't know. What about the 40? What about I'm loving Doge. What about the $40 million they're still sending per week to the Taliban?
Through USA.
Through USA.
Crazy.
Crazy. That is with our taxpayers to actually
You gotta speak to the
people that
bus.
they know that they have labeled as terrorists. And by the way, U.S. has policies not to negotiate with terrorists. They do,
And not to finance terrorists.
right? And also, by the way, you were talking about the hostages and the exchange. Normally, it would be one hostage for a prisoner. One.
And it doesn't have to be a butcher prisoner. It can be just somebody.
That's what would make logical sense. But
and it's not and usually a prisoner, okay, not somebody that's like literally coming out of the prison and they're like, Allah Akbar, let's get the gang back together.
What do you think they're coming out? When they're coming out of prison, you think they're going to be nice? They're
no, but
they're planning. They're going to plan something else.
These prisoners, the prisoners that they are releasing. The prisoners that they are releasing are doing multiple life sentences for being murderers. They're not releasing prisoners that just got into a rock throwing and didn't kill anybody. It's beyond insane.
It's not a misdemeanor.
We're gonna have
not a misdemeanor.
All right, for the edification of our audience, we're gonna have to put this aside now because I see the time clock is running.
Right.
Wait. I'm going there. I want to, to keep. We consider ourselves a show that we're a variety. So exactly. So, Soya had something. Baila is a world-renowned shadchanit, as she does that when she moonlights as a world-renowned shadchanit. Okay, and
one of the best.
One of the best.
Oh, thanks.
She really is, and something Soya mentioned to me earlier, if I may, something on a lighter note. I want to, Soya, would you ask Baila about this?
Did you hear about the Kehila tax?
About who?
Kehila tax?
No.
Soya, tell Baila what it is, and let's get Baila's feet on it. What do you think of this, Baila?
Okay. So there's a suggestion that a $100,000 Kehila tax be imposed on any girl who gets married before some arbitrary age dictated by community leaders. There's like this new thing
who's paying the $100,000? Which community?
Nobody has it. The article.
Oh, come on! It's
probably the same people that are running the seminaries in Israel.
Oh, please! You know what it reminds me of?
Baila, we got to talk about this next show. We'll do it on another show.
But I just want to say that. It reminds me of sometimes people come over to me, they call me and they say, if you find me in my bus shared, I will give you $20,000. I'm still waiting for even $1 to find your bus shared. So you know what? And anyone can make promises, nothing is a writing, and even a writing, Agreements
Right.
are breached all the time, and
So
you know
Baila, you
that, brother.
say
You're a
these are just
lawyer, so
these are just stuyot, as we say in Hebrew, that's being thrown out there into the air, which will never come to
anybody
fruition
can
anyway.
promise anything, you know.
It's meaningless.
Listen, we got to, in order to, my philosophy, my whole life has been do it with love and with decency. We are different people. Don't fight hate with hate. Hate can never
100%,
extinguish hate.
100%. That's
Let me give
true.
you an
You know what?
example.
You don't fight
Tomorrow
fire with fire because then you have an inferno.
Tomorrow morning at the bridge, my organization on Flatbush Avenue, 1894 Flatbush Avenue, at 9:30, I'm hosting an event with the Jewish Community Relations Council, with Councilwoman Farrell Lewis, who's the Councilwoman Flatbush, as well as the Simon Wiesenthal Center. I'm hosting Black History Month, and we're hosting a young man who was incarcerated for 8 years in jail, converted to Judaism,
Wow.
studied in Mir Yeshiva and Esha Torah in Israel, and is the future leader of the country of Belize. He's my guest.
Wow, we'd love to have him on the show.
Wow.
Yeah, Mark, maybe you'll get him bring him on.
He's a very
shy
guy. You know,
maybe you can get him come with you.
You're right.
On that note, ladies and
well,
gentlemen,
we're very non-threatening, you know.
when you look at the YouTube of his old rapper days, he doesn't look shy to me. You know.
All right.
Yeah.
Mark, we wish you, on that note, I want to wish Mark Appel, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck tomorrow, and with all the great work that you do in bringing communities across the country together from all different walks of life and really fostering peaceful relations and goodwill amongst all the different communities of mankind. Really, it's something extraordinary, and the bridge should continue its great success and its great work. And I want to tell all of our audience, our listeners, to keep praying, keep the faith, and we'll be with you next week, and we'll see where we're holding at that point. Baila?
Yeah, I'd like to finish off with something very interesting. While Yardain Bibas was in captivity in Gaza, his captors informed him that if he converted to Islam, they would treat him much better. And his response was, I was born a Jew and I will die a Jew. Unfortunately, after rejecting their offer, they refused to feed him for 2 days.
Kol hakavod.
But you know what? He stuck to his guns.
On that
We will
note,
never forget the Kadoshim. Their names will never be forgotten. And as their stories are continuously told, their memory will always remain. Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael
Chai. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
A good Shabbos. A good
night, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom Chodesh Mevorach.
Bye-bye.
Good night.